Hello, little one. Welcome to our bedtime story. Tonight, we have a special tale just for you, Little Cat Fishing Adventure. It's a story of a curious little cat named Whiskers and his big adventure of fishing. You see, the little cat had never been fishing before, but today he's about to learn the magic of patience and the thrill of catching his very first fish. So, snuggle in tight, close your eyes, and let's journey together to the peaceful lakeside where our story begins. Once upon a time, in a cozy little cottage nestled by the edge of a beautiful lake, there lived a playful little cat named Whiskers and his mother, Mrs. Paws. Whiskers loved to explore, chase butterflies and climb trees, but today was a special day. It was Whiskers' very first fishing trip with his mother. The sun was shining brightly in the sky, and the air was filled with the happy sounds of birds chirping. Mrs. Paws carefully packed their picnic basket with sandwiches, fresh milk, and, of course, a couple of fishing rods. "Are you ready, Whiskers?" she asked with a smile.
"Ready!"
Whiskers exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. He could hardly wait to catch his first fish. They made their way down the path to the lake, where the water glistened like a mirror under the sun. Mrs. Paws found the perfect spot under a shady tree and handed Whiskers his very own fishing rod. "Now remember, Whiskers," she said gently, "fishing takes patience. You have to sit still and wait for the fish to come to you." Whiskers nodded eagerly and cast his line into the water just like his mother showed him. But as the minutes ticked by, he began to fidget. The lake was so big, and there were so many other things to do. A little frog hopped by, and Whiskers couldn't resist. He put down his rod and scampered off to play. The frog jumped from rock to rock, and Whiskers followed, laughing and splashing in the water. "Whiskers," Mrs. Paws called out, "you need to stay by your rod if you want to catch a fish." "Oh, I'm coming," Whiskers replied, but as soon as he returned, he noticed a friendly dog wagging its tail nearby. The dog barked happily, and Whiskers dashed over to play with his new friend. They ran up and down the shore, chasing each other and having a grand time. "Whiskers," Mrs. Paws called again, a bit more firmly this time. "Remember, you need patience to fish." Whiskers hurried back to his spot, but no sooner had he sat down than he saw a colourful butterfly flutter past his nose.
"I will be right back,"
he called to his mother, already off in pursuit of the butterfly. He chased it through the tall grass, leaping and twirling, trying to catch it. Mrs. Paws watched her son with a knowing smile. She knew how much Whiskers loved to play, but she also knew he needed to learn the value of patience. When Whiskers finally returned out of breath and with no fish in sight, he plopped down beside his mother.
"I am never going to catch a fish,"
he sighed, feeling a bit discouraged. Mrs. Paws wrapped her tail around him and said, "Whiskers, sometimes the best things take time. If you want to catch a fish, you have to be patient and stay focused. Let's try again, together." Whiskers nodded, determined to give it another go. This time he sat quietly by his rod, watching the ripples in the water. He could hear the frogs croaking, see the dog playing in the distance, and even spot a butterfly fluttering nearby. But he stayed right where he was, just like his mother told him. After what felt like forever, Whiskers felt a little tug on his line. His heart skipped a beat. "Mum, I think I have one," he whispered excitedly. "Steady, Whiskers," Mrs. Paws encouraged. "Just reel it in slowly." Whiskers carefully turned the reel, his paws trembling with excitement. And there, at the end of his line, was a shiny, silver fish. He had done it.
I caught a fish! I caught a fish!
Whiskers cheered, jumping up and down with joy. Mrs. Paws beamed with pride. See what happens when you're patient, Whiskers. Sometimes, waiting is the hardest part, but it's always worth it. With his fish safely in the basket, Whiskers and Mrs. Paws packed up their things and headed home. As they walked along the path, the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. Whiskers looked up at his mother and smiled. "Mum, I think I'm going to like fishing. I just have to remember to be patient." Mrs. Paws nodded. "That's right, Whiskers. Patience is a wonderful thing to have, not just for fishing, but for many things in life." And so, with his fish in hand and his mother by his side, Whiskers walked home, happy and proud of what he had learned that day.